let's talk about the scorecard, the scouting report, because I think that's one of the true innovations of NCL. How did we come up with the scouting report? How did we identify the areas that are covered in the scouting report? And are they true learning objectives? Are they areas that really provide skills that students in cybersecurity going through a cybersecurity program should have?
Yes, so I think sometimes faculty members can be excused from just kind of sitting in their cloud and kind of pretending they know everything and writing down what they think is important. This was not the case with the NCL. We have 9 specific competencies, and the way they came about is we looked at 2 certificates in the field that are highly respected. One is CompTIA Security Plus, and the other one is EC Council's Ethical Hacking. We went through those 2 certificates and plucked out every single action verb that we could find in those 2 certificates. Those action verbs clustered around, naturally, 9 competencies, and they're the ones that we test against. Things like open source intelligence, network traffic analysis, log analysis, scanning and reconnaissance, and so on. They're all on our website, by the way, and all form the foundation for that scouting report. Every single player in NCL is tested against those 9 competencies, and they're tested against those 9 competencies over time if they happen to play in the fall and spring season, and this year, next year, the year after. There's nothing to stop someone from playing NCL, no matter where they are in their career.
So in terms of that scouting report, is that something that over time someone can show improvement in? We have an ability now for kids even in high school to play NCL, play through their college years, played even after college if they want to retool by taking a single course at a college, a community college, 2-year, 4-year. So there's a long lifespan that a player can have in NCL. And do you think over time showing the scouting report and the improvement in the scouting report is something valuable?
Absolutely. If I'm an employer, I recognize the fact that one of my potential hires is going to mature and grow over time. But I want some facts. I want to be able to measure that. There's nothing better than an actual competition that can show, every 6 months or every 3 months how that person is doing against specific competencies that change over time. So I think that the scouting reports of NCL are kind of a CV, a curriculum vitae on steroids. It's not just what the student has taken. It's not just the courses and the grades in the course. It's actually competitive information about specific competencies under gaming conditions. So that's why I think that it's going to provide tremendous insights to the employer.
I've been, in university teaching for a long time. I started full-time in '92, was teaching part-time before that. And it's fascinating to me how dependent students get on a GPA. They get really concerned about performance in a class. I think NCL liberates students from that dependence, that you can show an employer, look, maybe my grades weren't the top grades, but look at what else I did, and look at what I learned by what else I did. Look how I went above and beyond any student that just took classes. Is that one of the values?
I think you're right. And again, having been on both sides of the desk, having looked for a job and having hired many, many people in jobs, I can tell you that as an employer, I look to find kind of creative examples of the person I'm sitting across the table from. And those are not a GPA. GPA is kind of opens the door. Mm-hmm. If GPA is disastrous, I probably may not even take a look at the resume. But if I have 17 resumes in front of me, all with stellar GPAs, what is going to distinguish one person from another? Well, an NCL card is going to make a big difference if I can run down and see the skills that I want in my company, and that particular woman or man having excelled in during competition over time. That's a real deal maker.
Let's talk about the the hiring side, because the scouting reports, we're starting to see these used in interviews. We have blogs where students talked about how they presented their scouting report and what it meant. From an employer standpoint, can you put yourself in the position of an employer that is having a hard time finding talent, which is true for most companies that are looking for cybersecurity professionals? What could an employer do with NCL going forward to maybe help tailor those scouting reports? What are some of the possibilities?
So first of all, let's give it a sense of scale, Dan. The National Cyber League has been growing over time in leaps and bounds. So by now we have over 3,000 players in the fall season of 2016. We expect to break that in 2017. We had over 2,000 in the spring season this year. So additively, we're beginning to talk about 6, 7, 8, 10,000 scouting reports. Those scouting reports have zip codes. Those scouting reports have competencies. Those scouting reports have capabilities against the competencies that we've defined. So an employer can say, I need to find people that have really good log analysis skills around Las Vegas. Well, all of a sudden, the NCL can be a very credible source, not simply of churning out a resume, which is, again, a very flat assessment of someone's talent, but a very live and vibrant description from, let's say, kids around Las Vegas and how they've done over time in NCL. So that can be repeated vertical by vertical. That can be repeated in different geographies. That can be repeated in terms of skill mixes that someone is looking for.
Well, what I'm starting to see in competitions in general, and NCL fits right in there, it builds bridges between the academic side and the industry government side. That, you know, industry and government want relevant skills. They really want to see students coming out of these programs that can show what they do, not just say I took a class, but are work ready, that have, you know, the ability to do it, and they can show that. So I think that for a lot of places around the country, partnering with the competitions is going to become more and more important. And NCL is ahead of the game in terms of having these metrics, having the performance of someone in these competitions documented.
Absolutely. And by the way, there's nothing to prohibit NCL, and in fact, we're looking forward to it, to constantly keep expanding. The 9 competencies could become 13. The 2 certificates that we've looked at, ethical hacking and security plus, could then be, we could begin to add more and more certificates that have value in the marketplace. And that's the key. The key is to both align things academically, but also look at the marketplace and look at what's in demand.